ever-increasing digital world with more private information being stored online than ever before, it is increasingly becoming a challenge for businesses to maintain the privacy of their employees' data. Designing and enforcing appropriate privacy protections goes beyond ensuring that only authorized personnel have access to sensitive safety and health information. Dr. Stanton of Syracuse University elaborates on the idea of being proactive with security instead of reactive.
There's this cycle that occurs within organizations. Things go along for a while and nothing bad happens, and so people start to relax and everything gets lax, right? Everything gets sort of loosey-goosey. Policies just get stuck up on a shelf. You aren't necessarily maintaining your full suite of tools that you need. There's lots of holes that develop. And then something bad happens, right? Then you have a breach or a system goes down or there's ransomware, and then you're in trouble and everybody realizes that you're in trouble. And so people wise up again, right? They say, oh, we better pay closer attention to this.
While it's important to protect sensitive data from malicious groups outside of an organization, it is also important to protect data from individuals working within an organization. Melody Sutton is an IT director for an accounting firm with a background in security for the U.S. Air Force. She stressed the importance of digital accountability within an organization.
If you have your higher up people, they think it's a non-trust when they don't have access to stuff. And I try to put a spin on that, and it's more of a need to know. I'm like, okay, if all these people were hacked and you didn't have access to it, guess what? You're in the clear. So I try to turn it in a way that really the need to know, access level rights, that is very, very difficult. But if you don't give them those rights to start off with, then you don't have to take the rights away from them. So they have to build to a certain level, and that should go right in your policy right off the bat.
The best line of defense from information being breached from hackers or employees within an organization, as Melody and Dr. Stanton will explain, is education.
One you hear about these days, at least in my quarters, is spear phishing, right? Trying to find executives or high-level people with high-level access who can, if you can fool them into, giving up their account information, then all of a sudden you've got really high-level access to systems. So how do you stop that? You got to train people. You got to make them aware of the pitfalls.
You got to train your staff. You've got to train your managers. You've got to train your owners. You have to breed a culture of security and training. Have that in an everyday culture, and because that is your number one line of defense.
But that leadership is really critical. Otherwise, people only pay attention to things that they think their employer cares about. And sometimes if your company is mainly focused on getting product out the door, or having customers be as happy as possible, or whatever it is that your mission is, you're not going to pay attention to other aspects unless there's somebody that's sort of fighting for that.
Companies in the modern era struggle with how to best store private data. In Dr. Stanton's book titled Visible Employee, he acknowledges that there are plenty of documents and other papers stored in real physical locations. In such locations, the information is relatively safe unless the building itself were to be burgled or burned down. However, as soon as an organization becomes connected to the internet, some or many of its electronic data storage areas are potentially exposed to examination, copying, or destruction by individuals or software agents on the outside.
What is the impact of not having that digitized? Are you digitizing so people have access to it? Or are you digitizing for disaster recovery? What reasons are you doing? Are you just throwing data out there just to be slinging data out there? Where is it going? What's the purpose? I guess that's what I'm trying to say is you've got to know the purpose of, if it's disaster recovery, that falls under a little bit different procedures than access does.
We asked Dr. Stanton and Melody what they thought was the single best step a company could do in order to better protect their employees' data. They both stressed the importance of strong password policy.
Probably the single simplest thing to do is have a good password policy where people have to change their passwords periodically. They have to use different passwords for every account that they access. and that the organization supports them with some sort of password management capability, password management tool. And then, a general step beyond that is having some form of two-factor authentication for everything.
No matter how much you harp on them, people still under the keyboard, I love to do physical security checks around my office and go around and say how many computers I either got into or how many things were out, and say not trust, but if you're like, yeah, if I'm going to get in this system, how easy would it be?